Hey, hello, you're stuck in Chat with Wolf Girl, a couple minute riff on IT and IT security. Today, looking at the importance of using threat to really fine tune what your control recommendations are. So I spent the day with the team looking at a new identity and access management program assessment. Right, so similar to what I did with the encryption assessment, you look at what you're doing, you make sure you have a standard, you make sure that the standard includes certain activities that are best practices, and you make sure that standard is codified in the appropriate policies and procedures and people are trying to. And then for each one of those areas and controls, you make sure people are doing it. It occurred to me going through this that with all these, if you have a list of findings, maybe someone's got 2FA, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. and so oftentimes it doesn't. So here's the tip for you. Use the threat, right? What you're actually at risk of having occur, and the impact, what that threat would happen should it take advantage of you not having 2FA or insert control here, and use that to hone in on your real risk. Now you may have 100 different controls we're looking at, right? And we may say, hey, look, you need to do this. One of the ones I was looking at, and we see it on every single pen test ever, is an SNMP community names, right? SNMP by default passwords, therefore that you can get in with these default passwords, right, of public and look at certain SNMP stats. It's a finding. Depending on who you're looking at, it's a critical finding. I think Nessus ranks it as critical. Of the major breaches we've looked at this past year, Yahoo, which just happened, right? Another billion records sold. The major credit card breaches, all these sort of things. Was any of them involving SNMP, public community strings? I don't think so. What about all the crime, right? 80% of all attacks being driven by cybercrime this past year, and a big chunk of that being wire transfer fraud or ransomware. Hey, was the last time we lost money because we knew this SNMP public string and we emailed the comptroller and said, will you please send us funds? I'm the CEO, and oh, by the way, here's the SNMP controller string. I don't think I've heard that. So when you start applying this lens, right, what is the real threat, what is the real impact? We start applying this lens to a lot of these controls. This findings list that's huge becomes much cleaner, becomes much simpler, and when acted on becomes much more impactful. I think it's absolutely vital when we talk about controls that we use that as a frame and as a way of making decisions. Agree, disagree, hit me up in comments or chat at me on social media. Take it easy.